What's up? I'm back. If you really want. I can't put my finger on where it is though. Magic umbrella? Now it's time to build the background walls. hey. Nice. Hello. Thanks for popping in and stopping by. Terraria. Only one of the best games on the market. Sorry if I came off with a rude tone. Hopefully I didn't. Right now I'm finishing the right side of my Hellline division. I just got the rails in today, so I'm putting the walls up. That way they don't have monsters spawning. I'm actually going to take all the bases and connect them here. I know it sounds pointless right now, but it actually is going to help by quarantining the world and making sure that I can restrict the spread of the hollow and the corruption. It's gonna be slow, but hey, it's alright. Come on, use up all my bricks. Can't wait to get all this done. Then, with all that done and quarantined off, it'll make me feel like I'm safer. Come on. Okay, we've got 1/8 of our railroad done. Almost a quarter done. Now we're at quarter progress. Yeah, when I was in the shower, I was starting to realize how much of a pain it's going to be to have to dig down and make the tunnels. Starting to run out of this stuff. And like I'll just tear through lots of the terrain. Yeah, this is going a little bit slow. But hey, it's gonna pay off. And we're 3/8 done. blowing through this supply of slab walls pretty fast. It's quite kind of a little bit worrying considering we're gonna need to build a lot more of this stuff. Three more stacks left. We're almost to the halfway mark. And we're at the halfway mark. And it's the last stack. Yeah. Oh, convenient. I'm gonna get myself some cookies. Where are my cookies at? Mm-mm-mm-mm. Mm-mm-mm-mm-mm-mm. I want to listen to r slash if no one minds. Huh. Ah, You hit me, and no, it's called. I tried to punch you, and my fists are now bleeding. You have committed assault on me. I'm calling the police. I love Karens are like that. Like, I punched you, my fists are bleeding. Now I'm calling the cops. You loser. Like, bro.
To see my psychologist on Monday and had a great session. On my way back home, I decided to wander the CBD for a bit. I find it fun, and we have virtually zero risk of the virus here, so I can be safe while doing it too. I was wandering through Target and was coming up near the register when I heard the sound of a feminine voice starting to rise. Me, being the nosy B-word that I am, hung around to listen to the drama. The conversation starts with Karen. But you have to have it in stock. Your website says that you do. The poor worker she was talking to responded, the website isn't always accurate. It's better to call the store. But
It is.
I need that item. Where else can I get it? You could probably get it at another store. I don't want to go to another store. The manager walks over. Hi, can I help you?
It's called, like... Here, I'll prove this. My mom... I love her so much. She went to go get me a PS5. She ordered my PS5, and literally less than an hour after the website showed it had PS5, sold out. Gone. Done. Finito. So literally, that's proof. Just because the website says it has it, it doesn't mean, like, what's it called? For example, 1 hour, the PS5s are on stock, like, less than an hour later, gone. Out of stock. I snagged this PS5, and I was pretty lucky to do so. Well, my mom did.
She gave her credit. But this worker says you don't have it in stock.
Because they don't.
It's a very popular item, and we sold out quite quickly. Well, where else can I get one? You might be able to find one at another store. I don't want to go to another store. I want it at this store. We could order it in for you. How long will that take? Right now, about 2 weeks. That is not going to work. I need this effing item for my...
If my mom said, hey... If I said, hey, I want a PS5, and my mom's like, hey, I can't get it in before Christmas... What's it called? I don't care. I'm getting the thing. Like, if I have a... Like, for example, I have a Christmas gift that came in, like, a week later than Christmas. I'm like, you know what? I don't care. I'm getting the item, so it doesn't really matter. I'm fine with it.
It's for Christmas. Please keep your voice to reasonable levels. F you. I'll yell if I want to. You're being stupid. A security guard was already en route, but he hurried over with this. The security guard said, I'm rescinding your right to shop here. Please leave the store. No, I want my item. Leave now.
Uh-oh.
Karen goes quiet for a moment, and then spins on her heel and storms away quickly. She looks back and says, I'm going to call corporate. I know a high-up manager there. I swear to God I'll... Bang!
What? Bang, what happened?
Karen didn't see that the door was slowly opening and promptly walked into it. Multiple people started to laugh at this point, including the security guard. The poor employee she had been harassing was hiding her face. The manager was going through a titanic struggle to keep his composure. Karen then made the decision to turn around and start swearing at the people who were laughing. Shut up, all of you. I'm going to sue this store. You're all going to be jobless by Christmas Day. She turns to walk out the door, not realizing that by this point she was behind the sensor range, so she walked into the closed door again. She lets out a scream of rage and starts pounding.
Wait, did she walk into it twice?
This time. Seeing someone storm into a closed door twice in a row.
Oh my god.
Everyone who was watching was howling with laughter. Open, you effing grunt. Open.
This is stupid. She ran into the door twice.
Karen lets out another scream.
Man, every time I think I'm stupid, I'm gonna look at this story. Remember, there's people that are more stupid than me.
This was pre-quarantine where I lived, back in February 2020. Open. Karen lets out another scream and storms out. Our next Reddit post is from No Clue What to Username. Note, this was pre-quarantine where I lived, back in February 2020 to be precise. Some backstory, I work in a reserved gift shop. I'm one of the fours of the game, help people playing it, explain the game to everyone, and dress up in costumes. It's a lot of fun.
That sounds like fun. I would kill to have that job. Dude, I'm gonna assume that guy probably has like 20, not trying to be rude to him, but like 20, 30 bucks an hour. If that is maybe what your pay is, holy shit, you have a freaking life. Like, you have an awesome ass life, and I'm jealous. As long as you're getting, like, pretty good money from that, yeah.
Kids like to force open chests with their hands when they don't open for whatever reason. We always have to tell kids not to do that because when the chests are forced open, they break, and they tend to slam shut on fingers. I've gotten my fingers caught in them before because I tend to stick my hand in there to stop them from slamming on kids' hand, and let me tell you, it effing hurts. One day I was floor walking and helping people out with the game, the usual. When I see a little girl, maybe 2 to 3
Like an
years
escape
old,
room?
forcing a chest open. Now, the chest slamming shut on my adult hands hurts like hell. So I can't even imagine what it would do to a little toddler's hands. Like, I imagine broken fingers maybe. At the very least, it would be very painful and possibly ruin their vacation at the resort. So, as per usual, I hurry over and hook my hand under the lid of the chest to keep it from slamming shut. I say, no, we shouldn't do that. I wouldn't want you to get hurt. I say this as gently as possible. She was a toddler after all. The little girl nodded and started walking towards her mom, who definitely wasn't an entitled parent. It was the dad who came storming over. I had just finished closing the chest lid and turned around when he's inches from my face.
Uh-oh.
He literally had me cornered between the side of the chest and the wall. Don't you dare tell my daughter what to do.
Okay, fine. I hope you like to enjoy a surgery where your child has broken fingers.
Started yelling. Then she started to cry and hide behind her mom.
Aww.
This man was very tall, like 6 feet tall, and I'm not a tall person. So a tall man who has me trapped against the wall is very scary to me. I say, but sir, she could have gotten hurt. That's for me to tell her, not you. You are not her parent.
What a
By
jerk.
this point, the other families in the hallway were watching, and I was close to crying. Not that it's hard to make me cry. Then the girl's mom says, honey, leave him alone. Let's just go to our room.
Wow, the mom's not the entitled one. Wow.
Business and leave the parenting to the actual parents. We will tell her what she can't do. At this point, I'm terrified and trembling and trying to keep from crying. I'm sorry. He stormed off down the hall, and I was left there shaking and trying not to cry. I could see other families gather near the
What
entrance
a
of the hallway
douche. I hate people that try and
trying
make
to
him
put on my
cry.
brave face as I started walking their way so I could head downstairs to the gift shop. The
And
entrants were super nice, telling me that I was just doing my job and that he was being a jerk. I thanked them all and put on fake smiles, but I went downstairs and ended up crying in the back room until one of my managers found me and made me sit down to tell him what happened.
3/4.
It was not a good day. They ended up sending me home a bit early, and I was just glad I wasn't working the next day. I did not want to that guy again. Entitled parents like this are
What?
so obnoxious.
God,
It's
Jesus,
like, dude, if you actually did your job of parenting, then maybe other people wouldn't have to do it for you.
No kidding.
Next Reddit post is from Roken. Oh boy, I finally get a chance to show off my parents' entitlement. This one was so fun to find out about. A little necessary background. I'm currently no contact with my parents and siblings and have been for over a year. I'm okay with my extended family and I spend a lot of time with them. I currently live with my boyfriend, which my entire family is aware of, but doesn't know much about. We're also Desi, Indian, and my boyfriend is white. For Christmas, I visited my aunt and cousins to drop off presents. It was a socially distant exchange, but I stayed a while to chat about things. Whenever I see my aunt, she tends to give me important updates about my parents and immediate family. For example, I knew that my mom broke her arm and that my brother and his wife moved closer to home. Things like that. So, my aunt had a little tidbit she wanted to share with me before I headed out. So, your mom has a proposal for you. Apparently, a family friend had reached out to my mother, not knowing about our no-contact situation, and thought that her son would have been a perfect match for me. I literally know nothing about this guy, but my mother apparently rushed ahead agreeing with this friend. She sent my photo and information, and that friend loved me apparently. My mother then called my aunt, sent her the guy's photo and information, and cried, saying that she didn't know how to get in contact with me to share the good news. And would she reach out to me to show me the photo? My mother kept stressing that he's a good boy from a good family and how our families are close and how it would be a great match. Also, he lives in Chicago, so I could be under my sister's nose while married, and oh, wouldn't that be so wonderful? My aunt responded with, Okay, yeah, sure, and just didn't really give my mother an opinion. While speaking to my aunt about this, I was incredulous. She's all for mending my relationship with my family, but understands and respects my space. My aunt is well aware that my boyfriend and I live together, so she took what my mother said with a grain of salt. But, oh my god. I'm just appalled by my mother and what she thinks is okay to say about me to other people. That was r/entitled parents, and if you like
I want to
this
watch a
content,
revenge
check out my
one.
Patreon where I publish extra
Come on.
episodes. Also, hit that
Revenge. Revenge. Where's the revenge one? Nuclear revenge. I send an RAPIST to prison. Oh, yes, I love
sends a would-be rapist to jail.
I love nuclear revenge.
I was a little poo as a kid. I used to steal from stores and families.
I remember once, a little miniature story about how I stole something and it was good. Thank God, when I was an idiot, what did I steal? Did I steal somebody's phone? Did I steal somebody's valuable item? What did I steal, you might have asked? I stole an entire Gatorade bottle. Now, like I stole somebody's Gatorade. Yeah, I know, not everybody, don't wash up at once. I know. You may not have as good as the thing else I stole, but I stole a Gatorade bottle as a kid, and my mom and dad correctly taught me not to steal. I never stole anything again. I was a little shit. I didn't know why I stole the Gatorade. Why would I have stolen the Gatorade? Like, what if they spit in it? Like, bruh, like, God, I was an idiot. Like, what, like, I was not saying, stranger's Gatorade. Could they have spit in it? Oh, by the way, it was, like, half full, too. I remember, like, going, so, like, it was on the backpack, so I just slipped it out of the backpack and I stole it. I feel so bad for that poor person. Luckily, I gave it back. Or my mom maybe gave it back. But anyway, continue.
Walking down the street, was smoking from the age of 12, and didn't give a flip about anyone but my friends. They were my real family, or so I thought. And the group of all 5 of us would cause trouble every single freaking day. My parents, though in my later years told me they really should have been more effective in their discipline, really weren't to blame. I was just a mixed up kid. I used to think that doing all this stuff made me cool. I can't really describe how superior I felt when I made grown adults afraid of me, but it made me feel powerful, and power was something I craved when I was younger. I could go on and on about my sins, but the fact is, I was just effed in the head. I've made amends where I can to who I could, but you're not here for self-flagellation. You're here for the revenge. So, long story short, when I was 16, my parents had to put me in a school for troubled youth. I call it a school, but what it really was a military institution that taught discipline in the most brutally effective ways, while throwing in some literacy and numeracy classes along the way. Without going into too much detail, I'll say that this school changed me. While aggressive, violent, cocky, and near homicidal when I was first dumped on their doorstep, the men who ran this camp broke me down. I was there for just over a year. No phone calls, no visits home, no access to the outside world. For 1 whole year, I had this camp and these counselors. These real-life hard men teach me just how much of a poo stain.
I almost kind of want to go there, that way they could just break me.
My second summer, I was a changed kid. I had fought and screamed and gotten my butt kicked more times than I could count, but eventually I was beaten down. These men taught me that real men simply don't act the way I did, and that the type of path I was headed down would leave me either in jail or dead. They were brutally honest about it, especially this one counselor, Jay. By the end of the stay, I considered Jay a second father, though I hated him at first for making me feel inferior. He really did me a favor teaching me how toxic my behavior was, and to this day, I still think of him as something of a hero. He was the main person who deemed me ready to return home.
I was almost like
this.
this.
The backstory is getting really long, so let's get to the real story. When I returned home, I had changed from an abusive little jerk to a somewhat civilized young man, ready to take on my last year of high school. I was nervous to go back since I had adapted to the disciplinary school lifestyle, but I was also excited. I missed my friends and hoped they would just accept me back despite the fact that I hadn't spoke to them in over a year. And to my relief, I was accepted back with open arms. One of my closest friends had moved states since I'd been away, but the other 3 were ecstatic to see me. Over the next few weeks, I settled down. I didn't spend a lot of time with them outside of school. My parents were them I wasn't the same F-up that had ruined their lives all those years, so I followed their rules. And so only really talked to my friends during school. All of this is relevant because of what happened next. I had joined a school football team all 3 friends were a part of, and one evening after practice, all my teammates were in the gym, sweaty and dirty but pleased with ourselves. I was laughing and chatting with my 3 best friends so much I didn't really notice that we were the last left in the gym. But that's when the conversation started turning bad. One of my friends, I'll call him friend 1 for simplicity, started telling me about a college party they were all planning on going to and how they'd been crashing college parties for a few months now, since it was easy access to girls and booze. I was hesitant about it because I didn't think my mom and dad would agree to let me go, but then friend 1 started talking about this girl he was planning on inviting. A girl who went to the same school as us, but not one I thought friend 1 had any real relationship with. I knew her, but I didn't know her. He started to tell both my other friends and me that he'd been trying to get her into bed for a while, and she kept making excuses. So he planned on taking her to the party and finally smashing. When I asked him anyway, what makes you so sure she won't reject you again?
Why so young?
He dead in the eye and said as casually as you please the most chilling sentence I have ever heard in my entire life. I'm just gonna slip something in her drink. It'll loosen her up. No problem. At first, I just kind of
creep.
It was some effed up joke, but
that is so effed, yeah.
When I asked him if he was serious, he told me he was sick of her BS games and knew she was just stringing him along and that the pills would just make things easier.
That is really
my freaking ears.
That is really
I excused myself from the conversation pretty quickly and practically bolted home, most likely driving through several stop signs, but I really don't remember. I spent the whole night convincing myself my friends were just messing around. A few more days pass, and the conversation in the locker room is all but forgotten, though they hadn't shut up about the party and kept insisting that I sneak out and join them. I got called a wussy repeatedly for telling them I wasn't going because of my parents, but again, I just brushed it off. Then the poo finally hits the fan. During yet another after-school training session, we all end up the last in the lockers. And friend 1 does something I never would have expected in 1,000 freaking years. All 3 of them have been talking about the party this whole time. Then friend 1 starts rummaging through his gym bag. He tells us all to look at this and tosses friend 2 a small bag of little pink pills.
Oh shit.
I feel the blood drain from my face.
Psychedelics.
Going off in my head, a voice in my mind is screaming, "Holy cow, this is really happening."
Oh my god.
Serious.
He's actually gonna go through with that?
Cow. It's really hard to describe what I was feeling when friend 1 started going into detail about how he planned on inviting the girl to
This
the
is
party,
creepy.
slipping something into her drink, and making use of one of the frat boys' bedroom for a few hours.
Oh no.
Like, literally, I could have hurled everything from my stomach all over the floor as I listened to all 3 of them talk about how awesome the party was going to be after just describing how they were planning to rape a girl.
That is creepy.
And again,
and really messed up.
I actually did end up puking later that night, going over and over in my head what the freak I had just witnessed. I almost couldn't believe it. These 3 boys had been my friends for 15 years. I thought of them as my own family, thought I knew them
and now they're becoming weird.
1 year away, and this? I'll tell you that I actually broke down crying that night. I'm not ashamed to admit it. What I am ashamed of is how long I took to actually get a grip and handle it. I knew I should have told someone, but in some effed up way, my loyalties were still screwed. Don't crucify me for it. I know now what I should have done, but I was 17 and these were my best friends. I didn't want them to get in trouble, but at the same time, I knew I couldn't let this...
Dude, I hate that. I hate that because you have... Like, it sucks because you there's a friend where it's like, yeah, he's effed. Like, you should tell on him and report him. But at the same time, he's your homie. And that's like saying, what, do I shoot a dog or a cat? Like, that's like picking one, dude. It sucks. I hate that.
All I'd heard to an adult like a normal freaking person, I decided I'd sort it out all on my own. So I went to friend 1 and told him not to do what he had planned. told him it was stupid and dangerous and would ruin both his life and the life of the girl he was planning on drugging. He didn't even blink. He got right in my face and told me that the school I got sent to had turned me into a wussy. That he hated how much I changed and had been trying to change me back with friend 2 and friend 3. He even told me how they'd been talking about me behind my back and how they'd planned to give me a turn on the girl once friend 1 was done with
Wow.
me, just to show me what I was missing out on. Then he said something
and that's where I would just cut off friendship.
Word for word, I'm doing that little bee a favor. She's a effing virgin, and after this party, your mom won't be the only one finally getting some.
Wow.
We fought, and we both got sent home on suspension for fighting.
What a douche.
I could not effing believe it. I was seething. My best friend said that to me. My best friend had told me he was going to rape an innocent girl at a party, and I was a wussy for not wanting to join in?
God,
I was disgusted.
I'm just gonna say this right now. If there's any friend that says, "Oh, you're a wussy for not," no, you're not. That's called peer pressure. It's a very toxic, shitty thing to do. Peer pressuring people are such losers. Hey, you wanna do this crime with me? Oh, you don't? You're a wussy. You suck. Dude, I freaking hate those type of people. I'm so glad that I don't have those type of people in my life. And it might sound toxic, but peer pressuring is really bad. It is a very, very bad thing to happen to you. And I'm thankful I don't get peer pressured.
Sickened to my core, and I was done with him. My parents were disappointed I had gotten suspended so shortly after coming home, but I just sat quietly while my mom cried and my dad screamed at me. I know now that I should have told him, but after what friend 1 said to me, I had this insane notion in my head that I was going to get him back all on my own.
He deserves it.
Now to the revenge.
Yes.
After a week,
nuclear revenge.
And the first thing I did was seek out friend 1. He was about as bashed up as I was, but he was sporting a nice black eye from where I hit him in the face. Friend 2 and friend 3 were standing with him, and they all glared at me as I approached them. Then I did something that made me feel sick. I apologized to him. I told him that I was sorry I hit him, and that he was right, I had changed. And I hated what that school had done to me, and wanted to go back to being the old me again. And surprisingly, they all bought it. Friend 1 and I even hugged it out, and I put the cherry on top when I told them I'd be coming to the party. Now, for my moronic teenage plan. First, I started recording them whenever we were alone together. I wanted to get everything they said about the party and the girl they were planning on victimizing on tape. I knew I needed some kind of proof, or it would just be my word against theirs. And after a few days, I had gotten more than enough. But I wasn't done. No, my stupid self had a plan, and I was going to fulfill it to the fullest. So the next thing I did was track down the girl, take her aside, and tell her everything.
Good
She was
person.
pissed and scared, but I begged her not to go to the police or tell anyone. I know now that was stupid as well, but for some reason, she listened to me. I had a plan, a crazy, stupid plan to teach them all a lesson. So I told her to tell friend 1 that she was going to meet him at the party, but to just stay home. So
dude, this is gonna be great. The girl's in on it. They're going to sting this. They're gonna set up a sting on this ass.
Everything was going to plan. And I sat there, phone half out of my pocket, recording the whole freaking thing. So, night of the party finally rolls around, and I sneak out because, I was grounded. I think it's worth mentioning that I wasn't filled with vindication and self-righteousness throughout the whole night. I was second-guessing myself. I had doubts, but in some strange way, I felt betrayed. These 3 boys had been my brothers since before I could throw a punch, and I felt betrayed that they had gone down this road. What effed me in the head even more was the possibility that I might have been just like them if my parents hadn't sent me away. It was a strange moment of realization to come to in the middle of a crowded frat house surrounded by drunk idiots. But you take what life throws at you. So the night goes on, and friend 1 is getting steadily more frustrated that the girl he invited hadn't shown up. I'd made sure to keep him in my sights for the whole night, not wanting him to decide that any old girl would do if he couldn't take the one he wanted. I kept an eye on all of them, watching as they drank and drank while I stayed as level-headed as possible.
You know what? If I were him, I would just slip laxatives in the friend's drink.
All the girls at the party would be safe by
Hello, girl. You want to get it on? Oh, wait. Sorry. Before I get it on with you, I gotta get it on in the toilet because I have to take a That would be hysterical if that guy got laxatived. Oh my god.
This time the crowd was dying down, and a few people who couldn't hold their liquor were already passed out around the house. And now was my time to shine. While all three of them were occupied with a drinking game, I hunted in friend one's bag and found the bag of little pink pills. Here's where I did something I'm not particularly proud of, but I'll tell you anyway. I slipped one pill into 3 beers each and handed them to my friends and then waited. It didn't take long before all 3 were passed out on the floor,
shit.
along with quite a few other party guests. I then took out a black permanent marker pen from my bag and wrote rapist on all took pictures and immediately uploaded them to our school's Facebook page so everyone who attended our school would see. Admittedly, I didn't really think this part through, since I not only did this in full view of every other conscious person at the party, but also knew the photos wouldn't last long on the school site before they were taken down. But since it was a small school in a small town, I didn't doubt that a whole bunch of people would see it before a teacher...
Who cares? They got what's coming with them.
That's exactly what I wanted. Next came the recordings. When I got home, I got a verbal bludgeoning from my parents for sneaking out, but they stopped when I finally told them what had been happening. They were both shocked and a little disbelieving, but when I played them both the recordings I'd saved on my phone,
Here
they
comes.
were just as sickened.
Here comes the building. It's all crumbling down.
In the car as my dad drove me to the police station, receiving a lecture about how I should have just come to him in the first place. And what I'd done at the party wasn't necessary, but I felt like it was at the time. My phone had already blown up with other students commenting on the pictures of my 3 ex-friends with rapist written on their foreheads. And while a lot just laughed at them, many were questioning if there was any truth to it. It was what I wanted. I wanted everyone to know who they really were, so they had nowhere to hide. The hours at the police station were admittedly very scary. I was still debating with myself whether or not I did the right thing, but my friends had chosen their own fate. I still felt hurt and betrayed that they'd allowed themselves to become this way. And even though I felt a little guilt for potentially ruining their future, I did what I thought.
You know what? They had it coming.
And
They chose to be
long story
rapists.
short,
They didn't.
The recordings were enough to get them all on charges of planning to commit a crime.
Ooh.
Since the girl F1 had been planning on drugging had been named, her parents were understandably furious and demanded all 3 of my ex-friends be arrested. I would have been too, were it not for the girl telling her parents and the courts that I had warned her to stay away from friend 1 and the party. I was charged for my use of a substance since I admitted to using the pills on my 3 ex-friends, and also for battery, since the permanent marker was seen as a form of assault, but luckily I never got jail time. I did get a boatload of community service though. All 3 of them were tried as adults in a case of attempted rape, but only friend 1 got actual jail time since he was the one who'd gotten the pills and was the only one who admitted to wanting to use them. The other 2 only got probation and community service for being accessories, but were completely shunned in our town. No one ever let them forget. I was prepared for the backlash, ready to be jumped by them or something, but strangely enough, I think seeing friend 1 go to jail for what he did knocked some sense into the 2 of them, and they wised up enough to actually get into college without football scholarships, since they were both kicked off the team. They never came anywhere near me again, which surprised me, but I no longer cared. In my mind, my friends were dead to me long before all of this went down. And by the time I moved away to college, it was all behind me. I'm in my final year of college now, and I still think about those 3 sometimes. I think about how if my parents hadn't sent me to that special school, I may have ended up just like them. Oddly enough, I do miss them at times, but I know it's the memory of the kids I miss, not the men they turned into. I thank my parents continuously for sending me to that place, and even got some approval from Jay when I felt man enough to tell him what happened. I don't know what will happen to friend 1 when he gets out of jail, but a part of me hope he learns his lessons and moves on with his life, like I have. I guess the moral is to stand up to your friends when you know they're doing wrong, but
Yeah.
maybe not in the stupid way I did it. Always involve others more qualified to deal with situations you're not sure about. Even if you're a headstrong, stubborn as frick teenager who thinks you know everything. Man, this is a tale of redemption and justice. I am not going to crack any jokes on this story because it is just too heavy. Seriously, you guys, if you ever hear of one of your friends trying to do something like this, you really need to go to the authorities immediately.
No
Take it
kidding.
from this guy, someone who actually tried to get justice himself. That was r/nuclear revenge. And
Damn, that guy
you
took.
really need to go to the authorities immediately. Take it from this guy, someone who actually tried to get justice himself.
What a freaking legend. I love that, how he was almost like a bad guy, and then he just redeemed himself. Damn, dude literally took these guys out. There's 2 bulbs?
That was r/nuclear revenge, and if you like this tale of epic justice, please be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to
Nuclear pro revenge victim sends bully to jail. Oh yes.
Welcome to r/pro revenge, where a victim sends his abusers to jail for over a decade. Background: this pro revenge took place when I was in high school in the mid-2000s, a time in my country when there was much public outcry over bullying and hazing in boarding schools. A couple of students in different schools had died from injuries resulting from bullying. Other schools were rioting and burning stuff. They were under...
Okay, can we all say bullying? The kids that like shoot up a school are probably the ones that get bullied. Son of a bitch. Oh my god. As I was saying, they're probably the kids that get bullied and nobody takes attention to them. Not that, you know, people that get bullied are like, I'm not saying everybody who gets bullied is a shooter. Just saying those people that like that just snap.
The bullying I experienced quickly led to a depression. I was prone to self-harm.
F bullies. Bullies can go kiss my ass, man.
The thing that made high school...
Can I say as someone on the autism spectrum, I have been non-stop bullied, and I kind of developed thick skin. I kind of love to laugh at the people that insult me, because then it makes them pissed. They want me to get angry, and then I love to see their faces seethe with rage. Their freaking face purple as an eggplant, their veins bulging in the top of their noggins, where there's little brain matter to even exist. Oh, I love making people pissed.
Particularly nightmarish, though, was the sexual abuse. Low-key comments
Wow.
on sexuality from this group of about 5 boys in 4th form. They called me and my best friends gay. The social stigma associated with homosexuality here is really extreme.
Wow.
These boys would stalk and terrorize me.
God,
They
Jesus
left
Christ.
threatening notes under my sheets. We're going to F you up for being a effing gay. We're going to effing rape you, etc.
Wow,
So
these
I
kids
had
literally know no
knew
boundaries.
what was going on. Ironically, after an entire term of convincing everyone that I was gay, this same group began sexually abusing me. I'll spare you the details, but my first year in high school was the worst time of my life. But you're not here for my sad story, so moving on. Sometime in the middle of the term, the vice principal of our school was changed due to the aforementioned public backlash from the bullying scandals. The previous vice principal was a decent man, but the new VP was not. He came with a well-earned reputation of being unnecessarily harsh, dishing out suspensions and expulsions like candy on Halloween. The last straw. A few weeks after the new VP came in, and I'm having an incredibly sucky week that is really battering my lineage. Yes, the bullying and sexual abuse was still going on. Now,
God, what a piece of shit.
used to climb through a window into the computer lab and play video games. The windows had bars on them, but a slim person could fit through. I am not slim by any definition, unless the definition is bad. Among this group of kids was this troublemaker dude in my class in my dorm with the same common name. Turns out the VP had confused the two of us, and I was the one who was in his crosshairs. That Friday, the kids were caught. Some of them, including my namesake, managed to escape. The VP was called in, and the students who were caught snitched. Security was sent to the dorms to bring the other culprits. Cue me being woken up at 3 a.m. in the morning and dragged to the scene of the crime to endure a beating for something I hadn't done. Corporal punishment was technically legal then and
Oh.
my explanation that there is clearly no way for me to fit through the window were met with more caning. What really pissed me off is that the VP had us bring our belongings to his office at night for an inspection with the excuse of searching for stolen computer equipment. He came across my very private
God, the people that paddled are just douchebags.
having a diary in front of the teachers, watchmen, and the students I was bundled with. It didn't help matters that I broke down and cried in front of them. I don't think I have ever felt such humiliation in my life before. The following morning, we were suspended for 2 weeks. 2 weeks later, my parents took me back to the school. I had only told them of the mistaken identity that I suspected and the wrongful accusation. They already knew about the bullying. I didn't tell them about the VP going through my diary or the sexual stuff. I was still writhing in humiliation. The VP, being the absolute bunghole that he was, had convinced himself that I was the ringleader of this group of boys, again, mistaken identity, and thus deserved extra punishment. He ordered me to clear out a large patch of weeds and overgrown grass between the rugby pitch and the hockey field, about the size of a football field, using only a slasher. Just as
Oh. Dude, I've weed eated or string trimmed. Doing that, let's say the football size field, if I had to run my weeder with like electric and I had like infinite amounts of batteries, it'd probably take me about two to 4 hours. Now that's not with a weed eater. That's with a stick with a blade on it. That, man, if you actually did that, you deserve a few $1,000s. Without machines, too, damn. I mean, I know it's, like, kind of dumb. Like, damn, if you actually cut an entire field of grass like that, then you deserve a lot. You deserve a fat chocolate chip cookie.
Temperatures regularly dip to below 10 degrees Celsius at night. So
Yes.
I head to class to wait out the rain. A few minutes later, the VP barged in furious, interrupting the geography lesson. He proceeded to tear me a new one, even mentioning my private journal, and then he threatened to expel me if I left the field before I finished my punishment.
I'd be like, you know what? Whatever. F you, bitch. I'll just go on the Wikipedia and learn better stuff from there. I don't care if I'm expelled.
Mind you, this was one of the best schools in our region. It had actually been my first choice. He then proceeded to cane me again just to make his point stick. At this point,
I hope this guy literally chokes on a pepper.
Due to something I had not done. I was completely innocent, but this butt wipe just couldn't listen. The ridicule, the humiliation, the bullying, and the abuse all just came to a head at that point, and I decided to just F it all to heck. So I walked out into the rain, slasher in hand, with not even a sweater. This was about 4 in the afternoon. I never returned. I think the VP never really expected me to complete the punishment, but then I doubt he had ever met someone who decided they had no more...
Okay, what's it called? I am like a god, basically. I am literally like a person that would literally do something like this, but I couldn't even do it. Like, this is too far for even me, and I'm like a hardcore lawn cutter person. Like, there's no way I could see that myself doing what this guy did. Props to him. Yeah, continue.
Left to give either. My initial plan was to crucify him with his own words. Dusk fell with me cold and drenched, ripping up ferns from the ground. By midnight, I was shivering and crying uncontrollably, and it was too dark to see anything. I still persevered and started blindly cutting the grass, driven by this mad desire to just hurt. I really didn't care who I hurt. Sure, a part of my motivation was that if I did get sick out here, the VP would be in a truckload of trouble. But there was another part of me that was just like, F it, life sucks anyways. By midnight, I was too cold to continue. I ran out of energy and just sat down under a tree. Towards dawn, I was so cold from the rain and the wind that...
Wait, he did it overnight?
It was impossible for me to sleep.
I would ask for at least $5,000 of compensation.
After dawn. Apparently, the teacher on duty had found my desk empty during morning study time between 4:30 and 6 a.m. When he asked where I was, it came about that I had not been in bed the previous night either. He then called the VP and other teachers who began searching the school, and they finally found me in the field. The pro revenge. Yay, it's finally here. I don't know much about what happened immediately after. I was so out of it. I do remember the teachers rushed me to the school nurse, who immediately recommended I be taken to the hospital. I spent a week there due to complications, pneumonia, and a very expensive week it was, all on the school's dime. My parents were pissed as anything, and I couldn't blame them. The school's board of governors convened after my parents contacted them. The day before my parents and I were called in to speak before the board, I had the idea to just face my fears and put everything out in the open. I was just done with the school and everybody there. So on that day, in front of a group of musty old men in the boardroom, I finally shed my burden. I told them everything. My only motivation being to bury the piece of poo vice principal and my tormentors. I don't think I've ever done anything that scary before. From the mistaken identity, the suspension, the punishment in the rain, the threat to expel me if I decided to seek shelter, and the crown jewel, the bullying and the sexual abuse, I laid it all out. I knew that would definitely...
That has to be mentally traumatizing.
I called my best friend, who backed me up. The VP was in no position to win a he said, they said that day. A few days later, a zero-tolerance policy on bullying was announced. I think the board was acutely afraid of finding themselves in the news for all the wrong reasons. They didn't want their school to be one of those schools, despite the fact that it was one of the worst. Over the holidays, my friends told me that things got really serious after that. People didn't know why, but suddenly, any act of bullying was met with immediate and unconditional expulsion. As for the boys who had been terrorizing me, they were arrested. My dad went to the police with the threatening notes I had been receiving all year long. The school board supported us in this on the condition that we, my parents and I, do not take the story to the media. I was happy with that arrangement. I had no desire to be the face of male rape victims. We had a few meetings with an investigator from the public prosecutor's office. A couple of months later, the office reached out and told us that the boys had pled guilty. One of them got off scot-free because his dad was some senior army guy. Corruption. Shaking my head. 3 of them got 10 years each. One got 18. The topping. They were all in their 4th and final year. They got arrested just as they were about to sit for their national exams and go to university.
Oh, that sucks. This isn't pro-revenge, this is nuclear revenge. Right as they're about to get out of school, they got arrested.
Or if you have suicidal thoughts, I really want to encourage you to reach out to someone in your school. Every school should have a counselor or a nurse or someone you could talk to. There are also hotlines that you can look up online if you want to talk to someone anonymously. The point is, you don't have to go through this alone. About a year and a half ago, I was having issues with both my MacBook and iPhone and went on to schedule a Genius Bar appointment. This used to be an easy task. You just went to the support site and scheduled one. But over time, Apple has foolishly attempted to reduce the load on the Genius Bars by putting up various roadblocks to getting an appointment. I assume Angela has just decided that this is cheaper than hiring more staff and that most of the customers are rabid enough to still buy Apple tech, despite the blow this causes to decent customer service. After finally jumping through a number of hoops to get a Genius Bar appointment, I'm prompted to enter my Apple ID and password. I'm told that since it's been 3 months, I need to change it for what is now probably the 10th time since having that Apple ID. I can continue to use it on the App Store and iCloud and such, but if you want a service appointment, I must change it. Having gone through this for the last several times to get an appointment, I finally hit my wit's end. Decided it's an product service and escalate the matter through the Better Business Bureau. Apple's initial response to the BBB is a form letter saying that I need to just change the password because it's in my best interest for security reasons, and that they won't make any exceptions. I respond again, indicating that this is bad customer service and incongruent with the Apple Credo, customer service principles, that all employees are trained in. Their next response was that Apple considers this matter closed. I hate that response. It's corporate speak for, "You're not worth our time anymore. Go away." The BBB closed the case shortly thereafter. I do some research and determined that through my Apple Care Plus policy that I was paying for on both devices, there was actually no catch-all clause for why Apple could refuse to service the device. There were several exclusions, but arbitrary account security requirements were not part of them. I file suit in small claims court for replacement value of the laptop and phone. Here's where things got interesting. I show up to the court date and the case is called. I come up to my podium, and at the defendant's podium appears the manager from the store I used to work at. It was in the same county as the court, but significantly farther away than an Apple store that was actually a mile from the courthouse. I never confirmed this, but I think Apple didn't pay attention to the details of the complaint on the form, just did a name lookup, and assumed that because I had previously worked at the store, that this was some employment dispute. The judge asks me to explain why I am suing, and in about a minute, I'm able to concisely explain that Apple was putting up an unnecessary and extra contractual blockade to me getting a service appointment for my broken devices, so I was suing to replace the devices. The judge then turns to the store manager, who has arrived at court in a t-shirt and jeans. I'm in a full suit out of respect for the court, but before asking for Apple's side of the story, asks if the manager is a lawyer. The manager says he is not. The judge says that my state's laws require that only a chief executive or registered agent can represent a company in court, or they have to hire a lawyer to remove it to a higher district court. The manager responds that he understands, but that he's happy to set up a Genius Bar appointment right here, right now, at my convenience to get their products repaired. The judge deems this reasonable. We agree on a time for me to come to my old store for service, and the case is continued for 2 weeks out on the chance that things don't work out. I attend my appointment, and the technician is able to resolve all of my issues, and in addition, a senior Apple technician contacts me by email to indicate that he's overridden the password expiration requirement on my Apple ID, and I will never have to change it again. Cool deal. But I'm still out $60 for following this court case to actually get things moving along. I appear for the continued court date, and the same manager appears again, too. The docket is especially busy on this date, and we have a different judge who is slashing through cases, no nonsense. We're called, and I indicate that while we were able to resolve the problems with my equipment since the original trial and am no longer seeking replacement value for my products, I should not have had to sue Apple to get this type of treatment that aligned with their contractual obligations to me as an Apple Plus customer, and believe that I should be
Oh my god, this is annoying.
$60 in court fees. The judge turns to the store manager and asks if he is a lawyer. Manager says no. Judge number 2 gives him the same spiel. Manager retorts that he still believes that the court fees shouldn't be Apple's responsibility because blah, blah, blah. And judge, pressed for time, turns to me and says, "I assume you don't want to have to come back here again for them to get a lawyer?" I say no, thinking that he's going to give me the full 60, but instead he says, "Okay then, you'll just split it so that we don't have to waste any more time on this. $30 to the plaintiff." According to my state's laws, a prevailing party gets all of their court costs. As such, I really disagree with the way the judge handled that, splitting it because he was in a hurry. I reach out to Apple's paralegal, who had emailed me right after the original trial to confirm that Genius Bar appointment, cite the relevant law, and say that the judge was pretty clearly in the wrong, and ask Apple to just cut me a check for the full $60. Otherwise, I'd have to appeal, which was an extra $125 they would surely lose and then owe me $185. I was more or less appealing to their common sense. They didn't have any, responding that they would follow the court's judgment only and cut a check for $30. I think their pompousness continued in assuming that I was bluffing about the appeal. So, I appealed. Since the small claims court is a subordinate of the district court, it actually got appealed to the highest court in the county, the circuit court. This is big boy court. No BSing. I appear for my
Not like the biggest court, but circuit court is bigger than small claims. I've been to a circuit court as a tour.
Pleasant to everyone. I present my case that the lower court only awarded me partial costs and the state law required that I get the entire amount since judgment was entered in my favor. Judge turns to the manager. Are you a lawyer? He says no, but he has a letter from Apple's chief legal counsel saying that it's okay with them that the manager represents them. The judge does not like this, and his demeanor changes instantly. Apple does not decide what you can or cannot do in my courtroom. You need an attorney, so we'll probably need to continue this case. Judge turns to me. Do you object to a continuance for the defendant to get an attorney? I say, yes, I do, Your Honor, because they've actually been told 3 times now that they need to have a lawyer, and they keep disrespecting this court by sending the same layman to argue on their behalf. Judge turns to the manager, and with a sarcastic grin and obviously fake, it's out of my hands, hand gesture says, sorry. Judgment is entered in my favor for $185. As if that wasn't good enough, after 30 days, Apple still hasn't paid. I reach out to the paralegal again, and they say that they are still looking into their options, as if they were going to appeal to the state Supreme Court, which had to have been done within those 30 days. Again, Apple thinks that they're too good to follow court instructions or do what's best for them. But they seem to have forgotten that I used to work for them. I have my credit union look up one of the old ACH transactions from my payroll, and I ask them what bank that was drafted from. They tell me Wachovia. I go back to court, filed garnishment proceedings against Apple via Wachovia. I was able to skip the discovery portion since I already knew where they were keeping at least $185. And Wachovia, of course, cuts me a check within days. I love this story. It's so technical, but God, isn't it refreshing to see a little guy stand up to one of those giant billion-dollar corporations who doesn't care one bit about their customers and just speak to them? Oh, that is satisfying to read. That was r/Pro Revenge. God, I love reading Pro Revenge stories. It is by far my...
I love Pro Revenge stories. Pro Revenge, you can't stop me, ma'am. You're under arrest.
Life is expensive. Tools don't have to be. That's why over 40...
Don't have to advertise to me. I'm literally a buyer from Harbor Freight.
A man spends an entire decade destroying a scammer's life. A little over 10 years ago, when I was a young carpenter, I met a guy who I'll call Chad, because F Chad. Chad was a new hire by the company I was working for and became my helper. We got along famously. Even though he was 10 years older than me, he didn't mind working under a 23-year-old carpenter as an apprentice. Chad and I had worked together for 6 months when he brought up the idea of starting a business together. He figured between the two of us, we could easily run a crew and build houses. After talking it over with my pregnant girlfriend, now wife, we decided it would be better for me to be an employee, but still a 50% partner for tax reasons and insurance purposes. Chad said that was fine with him. So we started laying out who was to take care of certain aspects of the business. Chad was to be the guy to find work, as I look, and still do, way younger than I am, and it doesn't instill a lot of confidence in the client to think that their framer is 16. Chad was also to take care of payroll, insurance, and any other financial factions. My duties were simple: staff and run the crew, and keep on budget, something that came easy to me. I was to be paid an hourly wage.
You effing suck, man. I hate Medusas. They can freaking die.
Profit draw as I rolled it back into growing the company. Things were great for about 6 months. The crew was working well together. We had a few houses under our belts and a contract for a 10,000 square foot custom house with multiple outbuildings. Things were great. So Chad has never built a foundation, and we usually hired a crew to put the foundation in for us. As, like I said, Chad has never built one, and I personally hate concrete work. We couldn't get our normal foundation crew in, so I stepped up and said, F it, I'll do it myself. The company we were building for is one of the best custom home builders around, and doing a good job on this house could mean that we wouldn't have to pound the pavement looking for work. Work would be given to us. Perfect arrangement. Until it wasn't. Chad started spending money like it was going out of style. He sold us 2,500 Chevy pickup and bought a new Jeep Wrangler. He had the Jeep for about a month before he sunk it in water while 4x4ing.
Idiot.
Caught fire mysteriously a few days after. He received an insurance payout and bought a brand new 2,500 Power Wagon, which he, in short order, sunk in water within a few weeks. I never noticed the red flags, as Chad and I rarely spoke face to face. He was the business side, I was the get stuff done side. I finished the foundation and picked up the check from the builder. The builder said that we overbilled him by 25%, but he was happy with the work that we, specifically I, had done. But not to overbill again, as he doesn't like overpaying, as there may not be any money left at the end of the bill. I apologized and asked him to cancel the check and issue one for the work actually completed. He agreed to and said, I'm so happy to have honest people working for me. I usually don't pick up the checks, nor did I ever really look at the books, as it wasn't in the scope of my responsibilities. This prompted me to log onto our corporate account and see that we are so far in the red that we couldn't afford to buy a red pen, let alone cover payroll.
Debt.
I showed up at Chad's house and tore a strip off of him. He apologized and promised to top up the account with his personal profit draw money. I go into work Monday to find the locks on our tool bin had been changed, my name removed from all accounts, and a letter taped to the tool bin stating I was dismissed from my duties for an undisclosed reason. I was freaking
I think my armor got her.
I was not aware that as a business partner, I could be fired. I found another job quite quickly and tried my best to put it behind me. That's when I found out where the money was going and that Chad had been slandering my name around town, blaming me for the missing money, as well as a bunch of egregious statements about my work ethic, trade skills, mental stability, and home life. Now, I fastidiously tracked all of our interactions with a simple journal and had backups of the transactions of our business account. I also happen to have backups of all our texts, voicemails, and pictures of everything. This is the revenge.
Oh my god, these hornets.
My father's lawyer, rest in peace, friend, who started a fraud and embezzlement investigation through the CRA, the Canadian Revenue Agency, which is Canada's IRS, and called the insurance provider to make sure they were being paid. They had never received anything.
Uh-oh. They did it. They effed with the tax man. They're gonna get destroyed.
Around $30,000 for payment of work not completed, and had broken into their office and stolen another $15,000 in replacement value of equipment and tools. I did what anyone would do. I called the police. The police said they couldn't help me and said it was a civil case. And the builder said he wasn't going to sue as Chad had no money and it wasn't worth the headache. So I called his auto insurance company, sent them all the pictures of his sunk vehicles, texts about them, and a short video he sent of him lighting the Jeep on fire. The insurance company filed charges against Chad and won. Chad is on the hook for around $130,000. I've spent the last 9.5 years telling anyone who will listen about Chad, and I have had him essentially blackballed from the carpentry industry around here because it's not slander if it's true. I have also looked up his criminal history, as it is public domain every 3 months or so, and I make a point of showing up at his court proceedings or offering myself as a character reference for the Crown. That's the prosecution. So I've gone out of my way to remind Chad that he can't screw me over without repercussions. And no, this does
Uh-oh.
Years have passed, and I am still pissed off. I receive a call from a guy offering me a job. It was the builder that Chad screwed over. Not remembering that we know each other, after I explained who I was and the bridges burnt due to Chad, he still offers me the job. Medical, dental, company van, gas card, corporate credit card, I accept his offer. First order of business finds another way to screw with Chad. Through the grapevine, I find where Chad is living and working. New boss calls the company Chad is working for, and Chad is summarily fired. I get in touch with Chad's landlord, explain how he operates, and Chad is evicted for unpaid rent. He was apparently a couple months behind. I also managed to get his girlfriend's phone number, call her, and explain what this guy does to people, and his extensive criminal history, including but not limited to fraud, identity theft, insurance fraud, his many assaults, and his wanted picture published in the paper. Turns out she is the owner of his truck, the primary operator.
Uh-oh.
He pays the insurance. He cannot insure a vehicle until he pays off what he owes for the fraud. She asked me what she should do. I say that I'll take care of it. I call the insurance provider, explain what is going on, for them to tell me he doesn't even have a license anymore. They
That guy's laughing at shit show.
Truck after speaking to her and set up a sting with the police. I personally get to be involved as I knew what was going on. So I sit and wait for the day it goes down. I roll up behind the unmarked police cruiser and quickly explain who I am and what my plans are. The police are thinking that they are just wanting to pull him over for driving without a license and no insurance. I said I'm going to call him immediately as soon as I see him. So he comes cruising out and I make the call. He actually picked up the phone to call me a bunch of names and the N-word. I am as white as the fresh fallen snow, and he promptly gets pulled over. Police issue a ticket for reckless driving, no seatbelt, no license, and using a handheld device. During this, the girlfriend pulls up and proceeds to give consent to search her truck. In the truck, they find multiple IDs, stolen credit cards, a couple ATM skimmer machines, and a fake police badge.
Holy.
He was arrested on the spot.
That's a lot of jail time. Impersonation of a police, identification, driver or driving while under, driving distracted. I don't know how to say it. Driving without a license.
A lot of which belonged to the builder I was working for from when he broke into their office, and they were all stupidly still labeled with the company's inventory control stickers. This brought on more charges, and he was remanded to police custody until his trial date. Well, justice is sometimes slow here in Canada, and his trial date was at the time 17 months into the future. Well, yesterday was his trial date, so my boss, who Chad ripped off, Chad's ex-girlfriend and I attend the hearing, just to see the man squirm. His judgment was 8 years in jail, after being granted time and a half for time served, a $100,000 fine, 1,000 hours of community service after release, and no possibility of parole. I got to watch him be taken away in chains twice. Never underestimate the fury of a quiet man. And F. Chad. So, the OP in this story is a straight-up stalker. But usually stalkers stalk someone because they're, like, obsessed with them and they want to, you know, have sex with them. But this is like a hate stalker. OP stalked Chad because he wanted...
Wherever today takes you, whatever tomorrow demands of you, you'll be prepared. Because for more than half a century, Walden University...
God, that's amazing. I love people that just absolutely shit on people that deserve it.
Oh, and suffer he did. I was visiting my friend at his dad's house in an area where the land is so steep, all the driveways have to switch back up from the main road to the houses. A straight driveway is not an option because it would be steeper than the building code allows. A few doors down the road, there lived a nice old couple who until recently had a vacant lot next door to them, but the lot had sold and the new owner had started construction on a new house. Unfortunately, the lot was so steep that the new owner built his driveway partly on the old couple's land. It was carved out of the hillside with an excavator. This probably wouldn't have been a big deal if the new owner had approached the old couple first and asked nicely. But did he? Would I be telling this story if he had? In fact, the old couple had no idea what was happening until they came home one day to see
Cookies in here.
Thanks. You're welcome. Let's keep going.
Huge scar in the hillside, snaking up from the road in front of their house, across the corner of their property, and winding upwards to where an excavator was working to prepare the land for the new neighbor's house. They were pretty upset, but being nice, reasonable people, they figured it was an honest mistake, so they went over to talk to the machine operator. He didn't know anything useful, but he was happy to give them the phone number of the new property owner. The old guy gave him a call and politely explained the situation, but his new neighbor, whom he'd never even met, was having none of it. He flat out denied that the driveway crossed the property line, and he was rude enough that the old guy was pretty upset. At this point, the old couple weren't sure what to do. They double-checked the property pins to make sure they were right, and of course they were. But after further conversations with the new owner, it was clear he was an unreasonable guy who wasn't going to come to the negotiating table willingly. The old couple didn't want to take legal action because they would have been expensive, and frankly, the damage to their yard was already done. At the same time, they couldn't just let someone walk all over them like that, especially if they were going to be living next door for the foreseeable future. So the situation went on for a while as construction continued on the new house, until one day when my friend's dad saw the old couple in the neighborhood and they started chatting. Of course, they told him the story about the butthole new neighbor. Now, my friend's dad really likes the old couple, who don't have a mean bone in their bodies, so he was pretty pissed about the situation, and when he went home, he couldn't get it out of his head. That evening, after a few beers, he had a brilliant idea. He called up the old couple, explaining his plan, and asked for their permission to carry it out. They chuckled and gave him the go-ahead, so he hopped into the rusty, old, full-size pickup he kept as a second-hand vehicle and drove it over to the old couple's place, where he parked it across the encroaching driveway, making sure it was entirely on their property. The next morning, the work crew arrived bright and early to find that they couldn't drive to the house they were building because some jerk-off had parked a sucky old F-150 across the driveway. They saw the note in the window with my friend's dad's phone number on it, so they called him to ask WTF. He explained that he had permission from the owners to park there, and that, no, he would not move his truck so they could get to work. Furthermore, if anyone attempted to tow the truck, they would be charged with trespassing and theft. There was no way the construction guys were going to haul all the tools up the hill by hand. And they didn't want to get in the middle of a legal battle, so they called the new owner to let him know they'd be taking the day off and that they'd continue to take days off until their property boundary dispute was resolved. The new owner called the old couple in a fury, but the old couple told them the same thing my friend's dad told the construction workers. Basically, the vehicle was parked on their property, so
they couldn't move it.
Go F himself. To make an already long story shorter, the new neighbor ranted a while, but eventually he wanted this house to be built, so the nice old couple ended up with a significant sum of money in exchange for an easement allowing the driveway to pass across the corner of their property, and my friend's dad got several thank you cases of beer and the satisfaction that comes from putting a butthole in his place. The dad in this story kind of feels like a redneck Batman. He's defending innocent people with beer and pickup trucks. Years ago, shortly after I graduated high school, I got a new job to support myself during college. The new gig was in a pet store, and I was working in the department that sold the fish, aquariums, reptiles, and birds, etc., etc. The store manager was an awesome guy who I will call Kurt. Kurt was an old school guy. He went to work, worked hard, and went home. That's all he expected out of you as well. My immediate manager over my department was this large, snaggletooth witch of a woman. I'll call her Stephanie. We got off to a bad start because she quickly found out that I knew more about reptiles than her. She preferred the fish, whereas I'd kept snakes for the past 4 or 5 years. Her ego couldn't handle a fresh employee not needing...
New Astapro, steroid-free allergy relief that starts working in 30 minutes. While other allergy sprays take hours. And now with Astapro Fast allergy relief,
That's where I don't have any more of the... What's it called? The more...
guidance. From then on, she was terrible to me. She signaled me out to clean the goldfish tanks and had the other employees cover sales every day I worked. She would say rude things to me such as, "You are the weak link in my team. You are the reason I'm having problems in this department." Fast forward about a year, my hours had been cut by about 25%. I asked the manager what the deal was, and he told me that our department had lost too much money between lack of sales and broken merchandise, etc. This puzzled me, but I didn't think much of it because everybody's hours were cut. Simultaneously, myself and a few coworkers had noticed something strange. Stephanie had recently taken much more interest in the customers. She insisted on helping certain customers and sending us to do busy work while they were there. A customer came in one evening and was talking to us about how nice Stephanie is. Turns out Stephanie was breeding mice and selling them to customers outside the store. We
What the hell?
She was breeding all of her animals, her dogs, turtles, mice, and selling them to customers she met through our store. Not only was this taking business from us, our store had a couple corporate policies. We did not feed nor sell mice as live food for snakes, and we donated a lot of time and money to shelters, and we condemned breeding dogs and cats for sales. Stephanie was making money by selling animals to the customers, all the while her department had hours cut for all of its employees. It didn't quite make sense how this was costing us so much money until one evening I thought I had it figured out.
She's stealing food, isn't she?
Woman, but when one of her customers came in, she was by their side the whole time. I watched closely as she followed a customer around, helping them pick out a cart full of expensive aquarium decorations and terrarium supplies like lights and bulbs. I followed and wrote down every item she grabbed. I wanted to see where this went. She directed the customer to a register and went to check them out. She's lazy and would never do this for any other customers. I noted the time and went back to work. I later spoke to other cashiers about Stephanie checking customers out, and they said that she only ever rang up certain customers, and she acted weird when she did it. They suspected she was abusing coupons for them or applying hefty discounts. I got my coworkers to corroborate my story about the under-the-table animal sales and suspicious behavior, and I went to talk to Kurt. I handed him a paper with about 20 UPCs and the time written on it and said, I think if you look up a transaction from Register 2 at this time last night, you will find a large discount applied to it. These are the items I would expect you to find on that transaction. He was a bit puzzled, and I explained everything to him. I told him I didn't want to make any accusations before because I wasn't sure. But after seeing her in action, I was pretty sure something was going on. He thanked me and assured me he would look into it. A couple weeks later, I was at work and noticed Kurt was standing near the door, watching closely. It just so happened Stephanie was coming in for a shift right about that time. The second she walked through the door, he called her over to his office. Apparently, waiting in his office was a regional manager from corporate. He looked at the list I gave him and looked up transactions from the night before. He found one at the exact time I wrote, but it only had about half of the items I listed. But every item that was on the receipt was on the list I gave him. This prompted him to watch her for a few weeks, and in that time frame, they found her to be taking her customers around shopping, personally taking them up to the register and scanning every other item and putting the expensive stuff into the cart without ringing it up. In that time span, she had given away over $1,500 in
My
merchandise.
God.
And he looked back at the logs we keep for broken merchandise that is written off and found an excessive amount of aquarium supplies and decorations that were signed off.
That is a smoking gun.
Like 1,000% more written off broken merchandise than was found at the same time last quarter. All in all, she was charged with stealing and defrauding the store in over $3,500 in merchandise. And it just so happened that Kurt had already arranged for police to meet them after firing her to escort her out. I don't know if she went to jail, but I did watch her get walked out by police with about 20 employees staring. I wish I could have said something, but I had to settle with her making eye contact with me as she walked out, to which I gave her a quick wink. I'm so sorry, everyone, but I have to do it. So, you know Stephanie, who works with the fish and always likes to check out people with aquarium gear? I think there's something fishy going on there. That was r/her revenge, and man, I loved reading that first story. I think that is the longest lasting story of revenge I've ever heard, because it took literally a decade to resolve. Man, some people are really motivated by revenge.
I'm gonna shut down for the night. Bye, guys. I'll probably be back